Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parudikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I think it's 15. Tapas, you there?
Yes, Prabhu, it's 16.
16, 1-6?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you. On this 20th day of June, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4 entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text number 16. On page 204. Kim karma, kim akarmeti, kavayo api atramo hita, tatte karma pravakshyami yadgatpa mokshase ashubhat. Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami yagyatva mokshase shubhat. Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshami Yad Gatva Mokshase Shubhat King Karma Kimakarmeti Kavayopyatra Mohita Tatte Karma Pravakshami Yad Gatva Mokshase Shubhat King Karma Kimakarmeti Kavayopyatra Mohita Tatte Karma Pravakshami Yad Gatva Mokshase Shubhat. You want to try it, Ricky? Not yet. Okay. Anyone in Zoom land?
Kim karma kim akarmeti.
Kim karma kim akarmeti.
Kavayopi atra mohita.
Kavayopi atra mohita.
Tate karma pravakshami.
Tatte karma pravakshami.
Yad gyatva mokshase shubhat.
Yad gyatva mokshase shubhat. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Kim, what is karma, action? Can we close that? Because it gets too noisy. It won't get too hot. It's kind of cool. Thank you, Ricky. Kim, what is? Kim, action. Kim, what is? Akarma, inaction. Iti, thus, kaviyaha, the intelligent, api, also utter in this matter, mohita, are bewildered. Tat, that, te, unto you, karma, work, pavakshyami, I shall explain, yat, which, gyatva, knowing, mokshase, you will be liberated, ashubhat, from ill fortune. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. Purport. Action in Krishna consciousness has to be executed in accord with the examples of previous bona fide devotees. This is recommended in the 15th verse. Why such action should not be independent will be explained in the text to follow. To act in Krishna consciousness, one has to follow the leadership of authorized persons who are in a line of disciplic succession, as explained in the beginning of this chapter. The system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated to the sun god. The sun god explained it to his son Manu. Manu explained it to his son Ikshvaku. And the system is current on this earth from that very remote time. Therefore, one has to follow in the footsteps of previous authorities in the line of disciplic succession. Otherwise, even the most intelligent men will be bewildered regarding the standard actions of Krishna consciousness. For this reason, the Lord decided to instruct Arjuna in Krishna consciousness directly. Because of the direct instruction of the Lord to Arjuna, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna is certainly not bewildered. It is said that one cannot ascertain the ways of religion simply by imperfect experimental knowledge. Actually, the principles of religion can only be laid down by the Lord Himself. Dharmaṁ tu sākṣād bhagavat-praṇītam. Bhagavatam 6.319. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Siva, Narada, Manu, the Kumaras, Kapila, Prahlada, Bhiṣma, Sukadeva Goswami, Yamaraja, Janaka and Bali Maharaja. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of causeless mercy to His devotees, the Lord explains directly to Arjuna what action is and what inaction is. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So this chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. But Krishna has been speaking in the last few verses about action. And what this indicates is that action must be informed by the proper knowledge. Otherwise, that action is going to further entangle you in the laws of karma and reaction to karma and birth and death. So this principle is firmly established even in the material sphere. I mean, what's the point of going to grade school and high school and college? Because you want to get knowledge so you can act in such a way for your greater benefit. It's a system of training that the goal is, and I mean not achieve the goal, but the goal is to create a civilized society where people are acting not only for their own benefit, but for the greater benefit of all. The problem is that the knowledge that is normally taught is saturated with the modes of nature. And so you may develop a whole philosophy based on a misapprehension of what the truth is. And indeed we find that in Western philosophy, is that whole schools of philosophy were created, but they didn't get to the essential point. How one can act in this world in such a way to end one's entrapment in birth and death and old age and disease. So the fact that Krishna is talking about karma, and he's saying here, one needs to know what karma is, what akarma is. There's a certain, how should I put it? There's a certain play on words also, because karma can mean different things. It can just mean any action that you do, or as we see, it means when contrasted with vikarma, it means actions that are according to the Vedic scriptures. Not necessarily for going back to Godhead, but at least to keep you within the realm of the Vedic paradigm, and so you're acting piously and you're not acting so sinfully that you lose the human form of life. So there's also that. But here there's karma and akarma. One would think that akarma means not acting. But in this context of Krishna consciousness, akarma means acting in such a way that it produces no reaction, ultimately. And karma, in general, means acting in such a way that it does produce a reaction and keeps you tangled up. And then there's vikarma. Krishna will speak about that in a couple of verses. We have to know what karma is, akarma is, and vikarma. Vikarma is fruit of action that's vicious. You can easily remember it that way. That is against all the rules and regulations. And what does Rishabhdev say about vikarma? You know that? Nunam pramatta. Nunam pramatta kurade vikarma yadindriya priteya atmanoti nasadumanye yatatmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeya. Prabhupada would quote this verse often. Nuna means it is certainly true that those who simply act for sense gratification, indriya priti, it's exactly translated as sense gratification. If that's their only motive and that's their focus, they're bound to perform vicious and sinful activities. Pamatta kurudevi karma, and it's kind of madness. And what's the result? First, the Shabda says, I don't think it's a very good idea. Nasadamanye, my opinion is not good. Nasadamanye yata atmanoyam, because by that kind of activity, the soul is sure to get another birth in the material world for suffering. And because it's vikarma, the suffering will be even more extreme. So just having sense gratification, either gross or subtle, as one's motivation for action, is sure to keep you entangled in this world, and it leads to unimaginable sufferings in different kinds of bodies and like that. So we want to avoid that. And the subsequent verses, which I won't give you right now, there's 3 verses that provide a whole little lesson there in the 5th canto. And maybe we'll deal with that later tonight or tomorrow. So back to the verse 16. We're on page 204, by the way. Text 16 of chapter 4. So even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action, what is inaction. Why is that? Because they don't have, as Prabhupada explains, because they don't have access to the source of realized knowledge, knowledge that's beyond the limitations of our senses and the modes of nature. And this is one of the main problems we have in the material world, is that even if you're very intelligent, if you don't have access to books like the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and other sources of transcendental knowledge, then you're bound to be investigating according to your own ideas, and bound to be hearing from and reading books written by or spoken by those who are also similarly bound. And it's Prahlada's famous, the blind leading the blind. But those who are the leaders of the blind, they are seen as founts of knowledge that we should follow. And so it's a trap. And Krishna therefore intervenes, either directly, rarely, like he's doing here, or he sends his representative. Just like I wrote this little poem. It's on the back wall there. Did you see it? It's a what do we call it? The mission statement of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. No, in the blackboard right near where they wash the plates for the deities. You'll see it. So I wrote it years ago as an offering on Prabhupada's appearance day, but I kind of tweaked it a little bit so it's good for any day. So it says, "O Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright. So give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our heart and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about. To serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well, you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam." So that idea of giving the blind world back its sight, this is really what all of the great acharyas do. Without the light of the Bhagavatam, which is like the sun or these books, or Krishna, then people they're helpless. Because how are you going to negotiate? How are you going to act for your own best interest if you don't even know who you are and you don't know what the ultimate goal is? What to speak of the method for doing it? So this is the great gift of the acharyas. Acharya comes from the word achar, which means behavior. So it's kind of key to what acharya means. There's three qualities. Acharya is one who knows the Shastra and who acts according to the Shastra and who takes the trouble to teach the Shastra. And that's exactly describing Srila Prabhupada and all our great acharyas. And without them, we'd be helpless. They take the trouble to write, they take the trouble to put themselves on the line to preach and give us enlightenment. So Krishna, now we're able to, eat the fruits. Here we are, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada's words, Krishna's words, and he's telling us, I'm going to explain to you, the intelligent are bewildered in knowing what is action and inaction. Now I shall explain what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So, you remember a few verses ago, we had this key verse, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo vedi tattvataha, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sojana. Which means one who knows, Krishna says, one who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my birth and activities, similar to what he said a few verses ago. One who knows this in truth will not take birth again, but will come to me after this birth. So why is it just knowing that? The thing is, if you really know it, then you'll want to act in such a way that you're acting according to Krishna's desires, and therefore you also are not entangled. In other words, really knowing the transcendental nature of Krishna's activities, one will want to take part in them. One will want to join him again in the spiritual world. So that's the implication. And Krishna now will explain to us the difference between these three elements, and he speaks of those three. The karma, what is it? In the next verse he talks about karma, vikarma, and akarma. Yes, Prabhu? What is? Shastra. Shastra is the scripture. The scripture. So the Bhagavad Gita and other books that we have. It's interesting, all of these Sanskrit words, they all come from a root meaning, and you can really kind of find out more of the implication. The Shastra comes from the root word, the little syllable shas, which means to control. So Shastra, we're meant to voluntarily put ourselves under control of the Shastras, means that we'll act according to the instructions. And another word that comes from the basic root shas is the word shastra. Those little marks are very important. They're called diacritic words. So you have shastra and shastra. Shastra is a sword, is a weapon. So if we don't agree to be controlled by Shastra voluntarily, we'll be controlled by Durga. She has a lot of weapons, right? Tridents and things. In other words, we will be controlled because we're minute, we're helpless, But what we choose to control us, this is we can direct. That makes all the difference in our destiny. Like if we agree to become servants of Krishna, that we mean, just like Arjuna. He didn't do that at first. The whole point of the Bhagavad Gita, at least externally, is that Krishna needs to convince Arjuna to fight in the battle. Now, his reason for not fighting, you could say, was, he wasn't just lazy or shining it on. His friends, relatives, his grandfather figure, and his teacher were on the other side. And he was saying, these are people I love, my relatives and friends, and grandfather Bhiṣma, my worshipful teacher Drona. I don't want to be involved in spilling their blood. What will it avail me if I win the kingdom and it's soaked with the blood of the people I love? How is that going to help me? But his whole calculation was on what is going to please himself. Now, you could say it was kind of admirable that he, doesn't want to fight, wants to be nonviolent. But in that situation, because Krishna wanted him to fight, and he's a great Kshatriya, it was immoral, it was wrong, adharmic for him to give up the battle. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken with that in mind. At the end, he says, okay, I will fight. So at the end of chapter 2, Prabhupada has a purport and says that at first, Arjuna wanted to satisfy his own senses by not fighting. But after he heard the Bhagavad Gita, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. He fought to please Krishna's senses. And that's really the essence. Krishna is known as Rishikesha, means the Lord of all senses, including ours. So now we're using our senses for our own sense gratification rather than to serve Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita, and the whole teachings of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and all general Vaishnavas, is to dovetail the activities of your senses and mind and intelligence and everything else you have in the service of Krishna. Now, immediately, the kind of the false ego, the reaction is, oh, what's in it for me? I'm going to serve and serve someone else's desires. What's it? But the difference is in serving Krishna is that we're part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna is Anandamayo Vyasad. He's always blissful, whatever he does. And that's where we're supposed to be. Are we now? No. In our conditioned state, threefold miseries, birth, old age, disease, and death, so many different things. So how can we get back to that blissful state? If we become Krishna conscious and we're attuned to his desires and pleasing him, just like coming in Mangalartik. You've been coming sometimes, that's great. So just coming, it'd be great. Maybe I'll give you, I have a few more song books at home, and you can actually learn what the meaning is of that song that we're singing in the morning. It'll add more, yeah. And so that's pleasing to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to come. The song to the spiritual master actually pleases Krishna more than we sing songs for him. He likes to hear his devotees glorified more. And we're chanting Hare Krishna, and we're relishing the beauty of the deities. So it's not a great austerity. I mean, yeah, you got to get up early, that's good. But come on, days and years gone by, the great yogis. Okay, let's burn out these desires of these senses. Oh, it's summertime in India now. Before the monsoon, it's about 120 degrees. Let's go out in the desert and build a couple of fires or sit there and really suffer and burn out those senses. That's not bhakti. And it's cold, middle of winter. Let's go up to Gangotri. That's where the Ganges begins, way up in the Himalayas. It's freezing, In summertime it's cold. What does big of winter? Let's break through the ice and go and swim in the Gangotri pool. If it's cold, and it'll really make some advancement. No. No, that's not what we're supposed to do. Those austerities there's austerities in the mode of ignorance, too. So austerity in the mode of goodness is worshipping the superiors, controlling the mind, controlling the senses. So the point is that we're dovetailing our activities for Krishna's desire. There's no karma there. We're extricating ourselves from the entanglement of the material world rather than entangling ourselves more. So that's what akarma is. Akarma is activity that doesn't entangle you in birth and death. And karma is, in this context, activity which is according to the Shastra, but which it still entangles you. There's all kinds of parts of the Shastra called karma kanda, which Krishna speaks of it at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Some say this is all there is. This is the main thing, right? What is that? Yamimam pushpidam vacham prabhadam vipachada veda vāradata pada nānyadasti divādana kāmatmāna swarga para janma karma palapadam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwaryatim pati. It said, some say that the flowery words of the Vedas, the part of the Vedas that deal with performing various sacrifices and penances so you can get better birth in this world or go to the heaven, but not back to Godhead. There's a difference. They say this is all there is in the Vedas. That's what the main thing. And the main one is bhoga aishwarya. These two things is enjoyment and wealth. Bhoga aishwarya. But what does Krishna say in the next verse? Bhoga aishwarya prasaktanam dayaprididachedasam vyavasayatmaka buddhi samanobhutide. That those who are too much attracted to opulence and enjoyment, the fixed determination to perform devotional service does not take place. Because you're too much attracted to the enjoyment of this world. So this is where the chanting of the holy name comes in, Lord Chaitanya taught. If you're just able to start that practice and seriously pursue it, then you'll find yourself less attracted to this bhoga and aishwarya. And you can have the strength to turn your attention more to Krishna and his enjoyment and all of the activities in Krishna consciousness that go into making bhakti sadhana, practice of bhakti. And you find yourself less and less bewildered and attracted to these bhoga and aishwarya, material things. So that's akarma. It's activity. Devotees are doing so many things, sweeping the floor, going out on books, and so much deity worship, cooking, everything. I'm over there working on the books. But none of it is entangling us. All of it is disentangling us and awakening our original attraction for Krishna. That's the final fruit of the whole thing. And the wonderful thing is it's already there. Our attraction for Krishna is there. You all know this verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabonoi Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kareye Udoy. The eternal perfection of Krishna Prema. Now, if you really love Krishna, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be doing all kinds of things for expressing that love. Getting instructions from those who love Krishna, who are advanced, Srila Prabhupada and other leaders. And nothing extreme, but a full program of activities by which you can, purify your heart, purify your mind and senses, and at the same time help others to enter the house of bhakti. So all of that is a karma, and it gives you the state of naishkarmya, meaning that all this activity, but you're becoming free from your existing karma, and you're not engaging in any new karma. You're acting, people are bewildered, so you're doing so many things, but it's because of the consciousness is different, the purpose is different. It's all very auspicious. So Krishna is going to expand on these ideas in the next verses. So if there's no questions, we'll go on to text 17.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Vijay Prabhu.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu. My question is, why is it that Bhagavad Gita is specially meant for the royal class to hear it and to put it in practice?
The reason is that whoever's leading society has a tremendous influence on the lives of all the people. We can see that today. It's, you have to roll your eyes. Oh my God, no wonder there's so many problems. But if the leadership doesn't, if they're not devotees, then havoc is created. We have so many examples, even in the Shastra. The story of King Vena, right? He was, I think it was with his mother who had some bad forebears or something. So he was, his father, he was the acharya of incorrigibility, could not be corrected. From his very childhood, he's playing with his friends and he pushes them in the water and keeps it and drowns them. Come on, But he couldn't be corrected. So finally his father, Anga, I think he just left home in the middle of the night, took sannyas, goodbye, I can't take it. So there's no king. So as soon as there's no king, it's like in America when there's riots go on, or some disaster. The first thing is, now's our chance to loot, right? I remember the LA riots in '92. I was actually on. For some reason, I was invited to join a meeting in Denver. So we're in the airport and we're taking off, and we see these fires starting out in different parts of the city. And as soon as we got to the city, to Denver, Tabas was there, and you want to know how his wife is doing, in LA. And the rioters actually came right down Venice Boulevard. And but there were some devotees who they had some shotguns. I don't know if they were even loaded, but they had some shotguns. And they warned them off, and luckily they didn't come in. So this is what was happening in I don't remember where it was, but in the kingdom there, because there's no king. This is not good. We have to have a king. So they said, okay, we have to install Vena. By that time he was older. He was the son of the king. But he turned out to be worse than nothing. He's stopping all the sacrifices. He's declaring himself to be God and everything. So the Brahmins took it in their own hands, and through high-sounding words, we were always amazed at this. Somehow or other. He died. They killed him. And then, through some process of churning, they were able to manifest Prithu and Archi. And Prithu was one of the great acharyas for being a king. And this is a long story, how the earth had stopped giving grain because of the demons. So the king, the leader, sets the tone for the whole society. Whatever the respectable person, the leadership, even if he's a demon, what he does, then regular people follow in the footsteps. So therefore, Krishna is very concerned. That's one of the reasons why he was so eager to have the battle done. You remember he says at the beginning of this chapter, near the beginning, Paratanaya sarunam vinashaya shaduskritam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. When there's a discrepancy in Dharma becomes confused, at that time I advent myself, I manifest myself. And at that time I protect the devotees, I annihilate the miscreants, or arrange for them to be annihilated, and I reestablish real Dharma. So the culmination of that was the Battle of Kurukshetra, and the installing Yudhishthira, make sure Yudhishthira, virtue personified, the son of Dharma, the son of Yamaraja, who's Dharmaraj, was installed. So therefore, Krishna says, I spoke this to the sun god. If there's the sun god and the Manu, the leaders of the universe, the speaker society, if they are conversant in the Bhagavad Gita, they're pure devotees, then that'll be very auspicious for the people. So Krishna is always concerned that Dharma reign in society, because adharma just leads to so much suffering for the praja. And we always should remember, Krishna he doesn't forget, he doesn't ignore that relationship he has with us as Father, And so he's always concerned that those who have wandered away and fallen from the spiritual world can have a chance to return and become purified. So we're fortunate to have his pure representative heroically, courageously come to America and then, for 12 years expand and this movement, write the books, install the management, structure, everything Prabhupada did. All for the same, exactly for what Krishna wanted to do, which is to see that real Dharma spreads in the world for the people's benefit. Otherwise, you can see what happens when they have no idea. It's becoming unlivable. Is that okay, Vijay?
Yes, Prabhu,
leadership
as usual,
is
better than okay, very helpful. I have no words, Prabhu. You're just amazing. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vijay. All right, let's go on.
You're welcome, Prabhu.
Karmano yavi bodhavyam. Bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha. Akarmanascha bodhavyam. Gahana karmano gatihi. Ananda, you're going to see it on your? Okay, 4:17. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So this is the three: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Purport: if one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand this distinction between action, inaction, and unauthorized actions. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted actions because it is a very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. That is, one who has learned perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. And the entire Bhagavad Gita is directed toward this conclusion. Any other conclusion against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikarmas, or prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent persons will be bewildered. So it's like exactly where we live, because we're going to do something. I mean, everyone's doing something, even if they're just trying to lie down on the street, There's action, and every action has its reaction, either good or bad. And if we're in ignorance, then we're sure to act according to the lower modes of material nature, especially in this age, in Kali Yuga. If we don't have, that's why this is called transcendental knowledge. If we we receive the knowledge and act on it, there's two things there. We have to be fortunate to be able to receive it, and we determine, let me act on it. Then our life becomes auspicious, because acting. What is karma? What is a karmiti? So, as I explained before, that karma in this context means actions that may be according to the Vedas, but they still keep you bound in this world. Just as Krishna says in the 9th chapter, that you may worship me indirectly by drinking the somaras and performing, with the aim of going to heaven. And if you do it right, and you go to heaven. What does it say? Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Oh, I've made it. I could enjoy Vishal. Vishal is, wonderful, vast delights that you can't avoid here. You live much longer, you have a stronger body, things are idyllic, And so I got it made. But chini punye matya lokam vishanti. You're spending your punya, your pious credit. And as soon as it's out, you got to return, and doesn't mince words, to this world of death. Matya lokam vishanti. So he says this is the three Vedas. This is the part of the Vedas that don't necessarily deal with going back to God. So you're just going and coming. You didn't make any progress on the way back to God. You went to heaven and came down again to Martya Loka, and then if you get bad association, you go further down. You got diverted, in other words. So that, but at least that kind of karma. Now, one thing is, if you act according to the karma kanda, there's also some worship of Vishnu. There's mantras. You know, the Om is there. You could be, you know, there's some progress. But as Vyasadeva told, as Narada Muni told Vyasadeva in the beginning, this is why you're dissatisfied, because you have not written anything that's wholly and solely dealing with Krishna, his incarnations, his devotees, and the process of devotional service. And that's the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is, Lord Chaitanya came to establish the principles of Bhagavatam. The very last verse of Bhagavatam talks about Nam Sankirtan, you know. What is it? Nama Sankirtan Yasa, Sarva Papai. How's it? Kali Kalmasanasanam. That I offer my obeisances unto Krishna, the Sankirtan of whose holy name destroys all the impurities of the holy of the age of Kali, and bowing down to whom destroys all bad karma. Last verse. You always look for those those final instructions. Sarva dharma parityajya. So but there's so much other literature. Even some of the other Puranas, which deal with bhakti, like Padma Purana is quoted all the time. But there's still parts of it that are not exactly dealing with bhakti, but not so for Bhagavatam. So we need to know what actions to perform, what actions to avoid, and we know why. What is the meaning? What is the need? What is the reason for chanting the holy name? Why is that so potent and so central to our practice? You know, and we understand from the Shastra, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Purnak Shundho Nityamakto Abhinadvan Namanamino. That's the key phrase. Abhinadvan Namanamino. There's no, and this is of course inconceivable, that there's no difference between the name and the named. When you chant the holy name, you know, with some purity, not complete purity, but in sincerity, that you can experience the presence of Krishna there, because he's there in the holy name. This is what it means to be absolute. That's why we have a chance, even in this Kali Yuga. Because Lord Chaitanya Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya to give us this easiest process. From any position, that second verse of Shiksha is so important. Nam namakadi bahudani jasava shaktis tatrapitani yamitak smarane nakala. Etadashi tavakripa bhagavan mamabhi durdaiv midisham mihajini nanuraga. This is a prayer. You remember there's a section in the Nectar Devotion about Vigyapti, which is actually submitting an appeal to the Lord. It came out as submission in the Nectar Devotion. But submission, immediately you think, well, that means something else. I mean, submitting to, and it was edited in such a way that, but it's submitting an appeal. So there's three kinds. One is Dainya Bodhika, in which the speaker, he demeans himself. Like Bhaktivinoda wrote his song, I spent my whole life, learning all of these mundane things, but it's just buried me more, and now I'm at the fag end of my life, And Prahlada, often, many of his prayers are like that. He says, Evam janam napatitam bhavabahi kupe. I was simply following in the footsteps of the people in the material desires. But my spiritual master, Narada Muni, came, right? Evam janam napatitam bhavabahi kupe. Kama nakama monayak papatan basangat. Kritvat nasat surashina bhagavadgita. But the Narada came and imparted to me his own qualities, Soham katam na vishvajeta vabhritti sevam. How could I ever give up his service? And Prabhupada chose that verse, he put it into the poem. I think the Markani Bhagavad Dharma. So what is he saying there? He's taking the role. I mean, Prahlada he's a Mahajan, but he's teaching us how to pray. I was falling. I was, deeply enmeshed in all of these evil desires and activities due to bad association. But Prabhupada came and gave us his books, gave us his association, gave us his instructions. And those of us who are fortunate to, receive them, be receptive, it could transform your life. And it's so, I've been doing this for almost 50 years. And I went through, and watching the world go by, from the platform of Krishna consciousness, I remember, in the 80s, there was this whole thing happened with first cocaine epidemic and crack cocaine, and then the AIDS epidemic and all these different things. And I would just say, oh, thank you. I don't, there's no question. I'm not, I don't want any cocaine. I couldn't even imagine everything. No need. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then my friend Kushakrata Prabhu, when I left LA, he was amazing. He spent 20 years straight from about 1977. He came to LA and he taught himself Sanskrit, probably part of the Sanskrit. And then for 20 years, he did nothing basically but just translate the writings of the Goswamis. He had these small books because he was selling them. He was trying to support himself. But there was hundreds of them. And we were friends. And when he started translating, he started to translate Stavamala. And he picked out one of the poems there that's a little easier. There's a verse called the Mukunda Muktavali. And he would do one verse, a couple of verses, and show them to me. I said, oh, this is great, Krishna, do it again, because I was into chanting verses at that. And so in his first few books, maybe, I don't know, in the introduction he said, and I want to thank Pushkar. He was a childhood friend of Pushkar. I don't know if you know that, the artist. And this one and that one, I want to thank Dravida Das for not tolerating my not translating. Anyway, so I left LA with the Stavamala. He had just finished it. Everything was photocopies in. It was, the computers were barely coming online. And so then I find myself in Atlanta with the BI, and there wasn't that much going on. And I had this tambura, and I'm sitting alone in the room, and I'm just practicing the verses. I said, wow, this is a whole new level of absorption. One of the first verses there, he says, Yagya Banga Rishta Shakka Nunna Goda Mega Chakka Vistipura Kinna Gopa Vikshanopa Jata Kopa Chipta Sabya Hasta Padma Dhari Tota Shaila Sabna Gupta Gosha Raksha Raksha Mamta Daja Panka Jaksha. This is one of the verses from, and just the aesthetics of it, the sound. So it's a description, it's a summary of the Govardhan Leela. Yagya Banga, you can tell, Krishna broke the sacrifice. Rushta Shakra, and he angered Indra. Yagya Banga Rushta Shakra, Nunna Goda Mega Chakra, and all those clouds came. Indra became angry and collected these horrible end of the universe clouds, Nunna Goda Mega Chakra, Vrishti Pura Kinna Gopa, Vikshanopa Jatakopa. And when Krishna saw that his friends and cows and everything were suffering from this horrible downpour of not just rain, but hailstorms and everything, he became a little angry. And so Vikshanopa Jatakopa, his kopa, anger, was a little awakened. Chipta Sabya Hasta Padma, he placed the hill on his left lotus-like hand. Dhari Tocha Shaila Sabna, he lifted up and held it up. And Shaila Sabna Gupta Goshta, in this way he protected the coward community. Gupta Goshta, Raksha Mam, please protect me also. Tadaya Pankaja, lotus-eyed Lord. So Yagya Banga Rishta Shakra Nunna Goda Mega Chakra Vistipura Kinna Gopi Vikshanopa Jata Kopa Chipta Sabya Hasta Padma Dhari Tocha Sada Sabda Gupta Gocha Raksha Mam Tadaya Pankaja. So I'm sitting there in Atlanta with the little tambur that they provided me. So this is a whole different level of meditation, And so we're given these treasures. The first treasure undoubtedly is the Hare Krishna mantra itself. If you can, I was thinking this morning, if you can just chant in such a way that you're experiencing just a little bliss, why do you have to stop? There's no, it's not like you can't. If you're eating glubjamins, that's also blissful, but you have to stop at a certain point. But there's no need to stop chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And that's why you read, oh my God, Haridas Thakur is chanting 192 rounds, 16 hours without stopping. And Rupa Goswami, I think, chanted that verse, Tunde Tandamani Ting Vatanade Tundavali Labde. I don't know how much nectar these two syllables Krishna have produced. And of course, this is an ideal to strive for. where the very sound of Krishna is so delightful that you never want to stop. You know? And what does that mean? It means it's spiritual pleasure. And we've forgotten all about that for millions of births, and we're trying to find it in matter, and we're constantly frustrated in every species. But now Prabhupada gave us the way to access it, just by giving us Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So, we got to get a little carried away, but we'll resume tomorrow. Which one did we do? Did we do 17 or 16? We did 16, right? 17. We did 17. Okay, so we'll start with 18 tomorrow. 19? No, 18.
18.
Yeah. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. How do you go?
Prabhu, where can I find the verse you just spoke? The Jagga, that verse? Govardhan pastime.
I'm sorry?
The Govardhan pastime, the verse.
You want me to tell you? Yeah, I'll give you the reference a little later, okay?
Anytime, Prabhu. Anytime.
Yeah, I'll definitely do it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
No problem. That's what I do.
Thank you for a nice class. Very inspiring.
Hare Krishna.